Thank you, Daniel. So in the next 15 minutes, I'll be speaking in English, so you will suffer with me, okay? Okay, that was a joke. Okay, so the title is this, as you heard, and yes, okay. And so, we have already heard by Dr. Greg Ogden that the text of Matthew 28, these two verses, contains a main verb and three participles, and you can see the main verb, and you can see three participles, and baptizing is one of the participles. So based on this question, based on this text, I would like to focus on the following question. And so question number one is how evangelical churches in Croatia in general view the role and the position of the water baptism in the disciple-making process. So this is the first question, and based on this question, I want to ask a second question, or pose a second question, and that is, where is the starting point of discipleship, prior or after salvation? So in our tradition, or traditions, the process that leads a person to the point of baptism goes like this. So first, we share the gospel with a person, and we call this evangelizacija or evangelism. And then second is that this person responds to the gospel by repentance and conversion. And then a third step is that this person, as someone who is already saved after some length of time, is being baptized. So I hope that this process is clear. And that means that, okay, so if we follow this process in this way, we usually think that discipleship is something that starts after a person is saved, or in some cases after a person is being baptized. And I would say that this outline is very simple and very clear. So we are saying that a person is saved and then baptized, and also we say that a discipleship begins after salvation or conversion or after water baptism. And I would say that the consequences of this outline are the following. So baptism is not something that is connected to the beginning of salvation, but that is something that happens afterwards. Secondly, a discipleship is something that starts after one's salvation. And I would like to argue, my third point is that in this way we will more than likely make converts that later have to be converted into disciples. However, I think that based on my reading of the New Testament and the Bible in general, I would say that this outline is not quite correct. So let me explain why. Here I would like to argue 2 points that I cannot prove, but you can read about that in my article. So first thing, or first claim that I would like to say is that water baptism is a biblical way of responding to the gospel message. In other words, one demonstrates his or her faith and repentance and conversion and response to the gospel message, not by a sinner's prayer or by anything else, but by water baptism. And this can be argued based on the Gospels. This can be argued also based on the book of Acts, where we have, I think, 10 examples of people who responded to the gospel message by undertaking water baptism. And also this can be argued based on the fact that in the epistles, so wherever the water baptism is mentioned in the epistles, it is always discussed in the context of soteriological terms, not in the context of testimony or offering witnesses. And you can read about that in Romans 6 and 1 Corinthians 12, 15, Galatians 3, etc., etc. So my first claim is that water baptism is a biblical way of responding or saying yes to the gospel message. My second claim is that in the gospel, a discipleship is a process that starts prior to one's salvation. So if we follow the examples of the 12, why do they start following Jesus? What would you say? They are following Jesus because he is what? He is a rabbi, correct? So in this process of following him, they are gradually discovering who Jesus is, and they are gradually discovering what it means to follow him. And I would argue, and I think that this is something that is valid prior to salvation and also after salvation. So in the Gospels, those who are following Jesus, they are following him because he is a rabbi, but in that process they are discovering who he truly is. Hence, if what I'm claiming or arguing is correct, then here it is what I am proposing. So based on those two claims or two arguments, I am proposing a following three things. So number one, we should think about a discipleship as a process that covers both spectrum, prior of person's salvation, but also after. So discipleship is both a process of leading someone to salvation and also working with that saved person. So this is my first proposal. Secondly, my proposal is that we should stop using the word evangelism, or in Croatian evangelizacija, to describe the process of bringing someone to faith. Because in the Bible, dakle, evangelizacija is primarily the act of proclaiming the gospel message. And also, if we would stop using evangelizacija to describe the process of bringing someone to faith, I think that this would also impact the way we do evangelizacija. In a sense, how do we usually testify? Usually share the gospel, through messages, through sermons, to giving tracts or flyers, and there is a place for this. But if it is possible and if it is appropriate, we should also share the gospel with others the way Jesus did. And he did in the following way: come and follow me. So we should invite other people in our lives so that they can learn, based on our lives, who Jesus is and what it means to follow him. And so my third claim is that water baptism is persons, saying yes to the gospel message. So people are saved because of their faith and response to the gospel message, and water baptism is our way of saying yes to the gospel. But what we did in our church tradition is that we baptize people who are already saved after, 7 days or 1 month or 3 months or 6 months or a year. And thus we are making a baptism a form of a testimony. And I think that that's not the wisest thing. And my concluding thought, or the final thought, is that instead of converting people and then making them disciples, people need to be discipled in order to be converted and then baptized. And that's it. Thank you.